Hello, welcome to Zest Prime. As part of this video, we are going to understand another hook called useMemo. So this is one of the very interesting and very useful hooks called useMemo. So this hook basically we can use it when we are performing or we are executing a similar kind of logic for a given set of inputs. So in that case you can able to cache the results based on the given input set of inputs and set of requests. So this is the best use case to cache the performance and to avoid the similar kind of logic execution again and again. Say for instance you want to call a web REST service by passing a set of inputs, and we can expect if the input is same, and we can expect similar kind of output for the given set of inputs. So in this case we no need to call the web service and again by passing the same inputs we are expecting similar kind of output. So in this case this use memo hook, what it will do, it will take the corresponding output and it will cache it at the client side so that it will avoid to make the duplicate calls, and it will save or it will increase the performance. So this is the main use case. And also we have some disadvantage we need to consider when we are trying to use it. Say for instance when you are trying to call the web service for the given input and you got the response back, again you are trying to give the same input and you don't want to make it a call. Say in this case there could be a chance of there is a change in the data the REST service side. So the change in the data but where the input is same, so in that case so you so user can lose the latest data. So that kind of scenarios we need to consider, and we have to use this use memo wisely, right? So the main advantage is we can save the time, avoid the duplicate calls, and the disadvantage there could be a chance of changing the data, and we need to consider that kind of scenarios. And another thing is if you keep using this one, what it will do, it will try to add the much amount of data at the client cache side, so it will create a performance issue also. So we need to think about very carefully when you are trying to use this use memo, right? So I'll try to understand this one with an example. So let me create a simple example. Inside that we can see how to use it. So let me create. So I'm trying to create a simple React app with the command create React app and then npx and then press enter. So what it will do, it will take a couple of minutes to create this app. So I'm just going to pause the video. So once this app is created, we'll try to open the default files and then we'll start using the use memo hook. Yeah, if you see this one now, we can see the simple React app created successfully. We can see here. So these are the steps we need to follow to use this one. Okay, first let me open this app into our Visual Studio. So how to use this Visual Studio and how to install it, so this I have already explained in the previous video. In case if you don't have it, I will recommend you to first install this one and try to come back here. Okay, so let me go to the installation location. So this is the project, it got created, and open this location, take it and come back to Visual Studio, open folder, select it. So it will try to open the entire workspace into your Visual Studio. So we can see the default files, we can see the app.js. So this is the default file. Okay, before seeing this file, let me start this application. So how to start it, you can do npm start. So what it will do, it will try to start the node server with the help of useDemo project structure. So and then we can start adding the our changes to understand our useMemo hook. First, let it open the application. After that, we can start editing it. It is just trying to open the default port 3000 with the localhost. Yes, so this is the default app which we can see it, which came as part of the npx create react app. So but you don't want all those things, so let remove it. So this we don't want, all this header portion, just remove it, and remove all those things which we don't want. Okay, so now this is the default application which we have it. Let me print say hi, and you can come back here. You can see here hi. So what we will do, we will try to use the useMemo with the help of a simple input. Take a number from the user, and try to calculate the square of the number and display it. Say for instance, if user is giving the same number again, we no need to recalculate it, right? If user is trying to give same number, if it's already calculated, take it from the cache. Avoid calling the calculate square function, so that way we can reuse the calculate square function again and again without calling it. So we just cache the value and use it. If there is any change in the state but the input number is same, then we don't want to use it. So that's the way we can reuse the existing value for a similar set of input. So for that purpose, first let me create a simple user input field. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to create a simple user input field which can take the input from the user, so that we are going to use to enter the square of the number. Okay, let me write it. Input type equal to text. So basically what we are trying to do here, we are trying to take a simple text field, and with the help of this text field we are going to take input from the user, and so this value we have to store into the state. So let me take value, so this one we can say square value. So basically we are trying to use a simple input and we are trying to get the corresponding square value from the calculate square function. So whenever there is a change in the user input, so what we have to do, we have to call the state and we have to update it. For that one, what we have to do, so here basically we need to define use state hook, which we can get the value, and for that what I had to do, first I had to import so what I had before going to this one, what I had to import the some of the functionalities called use state and use memo from the React library. So first what you have to use state, after that use memo. So these are the two libraries we need it, use state and use memo. Use state we are trying to use it to store the the calculated square value. So for that purpose we have to use a local variable called constant. You can use it and set the corresponding field name and the function. So here basically we have this, we have already seen in the previous video how to use the use state. So you can pass the default value. Say for instance I am going to pass the default value as a 0, and then let me give the square value and the field name, and if you want to set the value you can use the set square value. So basically, so this is the set square value which will be called whenever there is a change in the input field. And this one you can call this as a event function, and then e dot target dot value. So basically what we are trying to do, whenever there is a change in the user input field, so we are taking the value and we are calling the, this is not a set square, this is basically we have to write a new function. So basically this is a simple input field. What we are trying to do over here, we are just taking the value from the user, we are just taking the value from the user, and then we are trying to update the state. Let it be. So what it will do, just take the value and it will update the state, right? So next, now you have the value and you have updated the state, so now we have to calculate the state. For that purpose we can define a simple button called calculate the state. So whenever there is a change in the state, so it will, your function will be called and will try to display the value. For that purpose what we can do, we can display the value over here. Example, let me display the square value. So what it will do, it will display the square value, and we have to calculate the square value. For that purpose I am going to write a simple function which will calculate the square and it will return to us. Okay, let me write a simple function, constant square value equal to. So what it will do, this function will take a number and it will calculate the square and it will return to us. So that's this very simple function. What it will take a number from the user and it will return. So what it will do, this square value, so we need to use a different name. Let it this one as a number instead of square value. This is a number only, this is not a square value. So here we are going to calculate the square value. So basically what we are trying to do, we are just taking the user input and we are setting the state. After that we are just taking the similar kind of number and we are trying to calculate the square value. If there is a change, we are trying to display the square value. That's it. So take the number and pass to the state. Once you calculate the number and it will display it. So what it will do over here, so every time whenever there is a change, your square number will be recalculated and it will display. But what will happen, that is very costly operation, so we don't want to do. like that again and again. So to avoid that scenario, we are going to use the use memo. So how to use the use memo? So this is where the main use case of use memo will be used. So here you are going to define use memo. So here use memo, it will take two parameters. One is the function which you are trying to call it, and what is the corresponding input dependency. So these are the two things you have to define it over here. So this is where you have to return the what is the function we are trying to call it. So this is the function you are trying to call it. So you can pass the corresponding input. So here number, and so this is the number we are trying to call it, and the second input I was telling is a array and the dependency of the input. So this is the way you can calculate the value, and you can take the value and it will display it. So this is the use memo value we are trying to display to the user directly, right? But this use memo will take the input from the state, and it will call this costly function, and it will return the value. Whenever there is a change, again it will try to calculate, and it will not calculate it, but it will try to cache. It will take it from the cache and it will return it. If I don't understand it, so what we are going to do, we are going to define another simple variable called state field. We are going to define another value. First let me define. So this is a button. So what I'm going to define another variable, or so I'm going to define, or I'm going to define another button, and when you click the button, I want to define another state of the field. I want to change it. So let me give this is as a false state field. Set state field. So what is the use of this one? Whenever I'm trying to click the button, whenever I want to click the button, so I want to uh, take the existing state field and I want to update it. For that purpose I'm going to use it. So click this button, so put some label or display here directly, change state. So what this button will do, every time when you click this button, it will call this state function and it will update the corresponding state value. So in that case we can simulate there is a state change functionality with the help of this. Whenever there is a state change and whenever the state fields are using, it should recalculate the value and it will give the results back to us and we can display it. So that's the main use case of this functionality, right? So now let me start this function, let me open this menu. So here there is a typo. Let me come back here. false, false. So this is the boolean value, it should be false, not. Okay, let me refresh, there is some error. So put this one as a button directly, come back here, refresh, that's it. So now you have an input over here, input field, and there is a change field. So you can, this is a button which you can trigger an event and which can change the state, and this is a simple input field which we can take an input from the user and which we can update the state. And whenever there is a change, and then your useMemo function will look for the corresponding implementation, it will look for the corresponding value and it will call the value, it will call the function and it will get the value, right? So now let me come back here and just to see whether this function is calling or not. So I'm going to write a simple log over here, calculate square value. So basically what it will do, whenever there is a change in the state, it will, the square function will be called and it will recalculate the value and it will send to us. So every time we can see whenever this function is called, we can see this log. Let me come back here, clean it, refresh once. So we can see here it is calling twice. So basically this is calling twice because on React side, so there is a function called, let me come back here. So this is a strict mode. Whenever you are in a strict mode, so this will be called twice. So to avoid this one, in case if you don't want to call twice, you can remove this strict mode, and then I think it will not call twice, I guess. Let me save it, come back here, now refresh. Now you can see it is not calling twice. So let me put it different way. Now I am going to change the number to, it's calling again, it's calling to, again to, it's calling, change the state. See, whenever I am changing the state, it's not calling actually. See, it's not calling this functionality. Even if you should clear it, it's not calling. So if you want to see the state changed or not, let me come back here and let me print the value here. Okay, before, let me display the state value. So this is the default state, we are trying to use it to simulate the value. So here whenever there is a state change, you can see here true or false, right? Let me come back here. So let me put a break over here, and one more break. This is fine. Now you can see over here, user input field, change state. So here let me give here 2, and I will keep changing the state, but it's not calling the function. I keep changing the state, true false, but this function is not calling, it will call only one time. Now again I keep changing the state, but this function is not calling. So you can see here only true here. So now say for instance, because now it's not, we are using useMemo, from that we are calculating the values because it's caching the value based on the input and it's not recalculating even though whenever there is a state change. So this is the main advantage of use case. Say for instance, if you are not using the useMemo, what will happen? You can call the function directly. So this is also one of the way to get the square value, but here we are not using the useMemo, we are just directly calling the square value. So in this case what will happen? Come back here, let me clear it, refresh. So it called one time, and let me give here 2, it called another time. Now I'm trying to change the state. So every time there is a change state, this function is keep calling. But here the input is not change the square value, but the square is every time it is recalculating. That means it's executing every time, but we don't want to execute every time because the square input is not changed. So in this case you can use memo, and said that you can define what functionality we don't want to call again and again based on the given set of inputs. You can given here multiple inputs also, it will take an array. So this is the way you can avoid calling a complex functionality again and again, and cache the value and use the value whenever you want it. So that's the main use case of use memo, to avoid duplicate calls for the given a duplicate or a similar kind of value. So that's the main use case. So in this case now I'm trying to call it directly, and so you can see here whenever there is a change in the state, it is recalculating the again square value for the given same inputs. The value will not change, it's always 4. If you see here, click it, it's incrementing. You see it's keep incrementing, but the input and output is no change, but still the execution is happening, this function calling and execution. So to avoid this one, what you can do, you can call the complex functionality with the help of use memo, and it will try to take the value and it will cache the value based on this set of inputs and the corresponding output. So that's the way you can avoid. So come back here and give the corresponding 5, and see it's got calculated 25, and let's change the state. Now if you see here, it's changing the state every time, but it's not calling the state. So that's the main usage of the use memo. You can call the a set of complex functionality with a set of inputs and cache the value and try to reuse it. So that's the way you can avoid calling the same function, complex function, again and again for the similar kind of set of inputs. So that's the main use case. I think that's all about this video. If you like the video, you can subscribe the channel for more updates, and thank you so much.